sound speeds. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, then you know that in early 2020, I did a studio upgrade, and everything from the gear that I use in front of the camera to the acoustic treatment that I use behind me and all around me when I'm doing my presentation videos or shooting in my studio. Now, at that point, some of the things I was upgrading to were simply inexpensive, so that way I could spend my money on other things because I know how to get around some of the design flaws in gear and get the most out of it, especially if it's a permanent install. Why spend a whole lot of money on something that you're going to permanently install, like the stands that I have holding up my lights, for example? Those were fairly inexpensive. But there was one thing I was, kind of interested in trying and pretty pleased about because of the reviews I saw, but more than anything, it was because of what it did for me. Let me explain it to you. You see this area in front of my monitor here? There's only about this amount of space in front of me here underneath the monitor when I'm doing my editing and everything that I do here at my desk. But the big issue I ran into was trying to find a speaker system that would fit small enough without imposing in on my monitor, because my monitor is already up as high as it would go. I could very easily lower it if I wanted to, but raising it, it is only going to go that high. And I don't want to have speakers that would stick up into my screen. Now, I did think about getting something like a Mackie or the Presonus 3.5s or 3-inch ones, and getting the little stands that would clip onto the side of my desk and stand up. But here's the thing. In my environment here, I usually edit with my headphones. I don't need to have those kinds of speakers that are standing way out on the sides of both of them and maybe even being obscured a little bit by my background. So what I decided to do instead is opt for something more low profile. Now, the first thing I did think about was getting something like a glorified Bluetooth speaker. And I thought about getting that simply because it's small. But the biggest issue I run into with those things is that it's, first of all, it's small. It's not going to have a lot of a full frequency response to it. And at the same time, I would have to connect it up solidly to power and to the computer at all times. And then anytime you turn these things on, it doesn't look at the line input. What it does is beep, beep. And then it's going to want to try to connect up to something constantly, and it will not shut up. Every few seconds, it's going to say, trying to pair. It's attempting to pair. It's right now attempting to pair, and I'm actually kind of surprised it hasn't spoke yet. But there it goes. So it's now trying to pair with something it's not going to. After 2 minutes, it's going to fail. Then periodically, it may decide it's going to try again. That is unacceptable to me, because if I'm trying to just listen to something and I turn it on, I don't want to be bothered. So what I decided to give a try to is something called the Creative Lab Pebble 2.1 system. Now, they do make the 2.0 system, which is more like just these two units right here, but you don't often hear me praise consumer products. That's the reason why I'm actually fairly impressed by these. I'm going to share with you why. Now, first of all, with any speaker on your desk, I'm going to suggest you get them off of your desk. As you might be able to see here, I have a full mouse pad that goes all the way around my desk. I'm using my 286S inside of a rack that I bought off of eBay from a guy, and I really love his products here. But this also provides a little bit of padding, kind of like, the dampening type materials that you would use underneath real studio monitors. And by getting them off of the ground, it's going to help isolate. Now, there is also a subwoofer back there, and I can easily get that behind the monitor. And because it's a sub, the lower frequencies are going to reach you through anything, and it's not going to rattle my monitor one bit. Now, the reason why I like these, first of all, they're very low profile. I can even drop my monitor down. It's not going to interfere with that. But because they're slightly angled upwards, in truth here, my seat is lowered right now, so that way the shot is a little bit easier to compose. But normally, my face is up here, higher and out of the frame. And when I'm up there, these speakers are angled directly towards me. Now, the biggest thing I run into is needing some good quality speakers. Not necessarily studio quality. By all means, I'm not suggesting you replace anything studio quality with these. But what they do allow me to do is take off the headphones, get a break if I'm going to be editing pre-edited, audio, and I'm going to be adding it into my videos. I could take these off if I'm watching YouTube at night, if I'm watching Netflix or whatever. I can easily take these headphones off, turn these things on, and listen. Now, here's real quickly how these things work. There is simply a speaker with on the left side with one wire coming out of it. On the back of the subwoofer, there's one speaker, or the one cable rather, coming out of that speaker. There's also a port and a downward facing sub. Now, It's not huge. It's not going to reproduce 20 hertz by any means, but it still does pretty darn good if I do say so myself. Now, the right speaker, on the other hand, has 4 actual cables coming out of it. One goes to power, one goes to the computer, one goes to the subwoofer, and one goes to the left speaker. And there's also a switch, if you notice at the bottom, that goes from L to H. That's low power and high power. If it's on low power, I don't need to, I can have more finesse over exactly how loud I want it to be. And if I'm going to blast, I can very easily take it to high power mode. You may be wondering, how loud is it? Well, it's not going to blow the walls apart, but for being as close as I am to these speakers, they do a pretty good job. They're only a few watts in power, so they're not going to be overly powerful. But in order to demonstrate this, I'm going to have to kill my microphone, and I'm going to have to turn it up and play something that's royalty-free, or rather, something that I composed, the SoundSpeeds outro. So let me do that and demonstrate it for you right now. So by no means is this going to blow the walls apart. It's plenty loud for being close enough to my computer monitor and just casual listening. It's, again, not something that you normally hear me tout the praises of a consumer product, but it does sound surprisingly good for the quality. Again, it's not overly loud, even in the high power mode, because it's only a few watts, but it does have a subwoofer, so it does have a little bit of bass to it here. And the best thing about it probably is the fact that it's only around $50. So it's very low profile, and it has a subwoofer built in, and there are other versions of it. You can get a white ones if you want to. They also have a version that's a bit higher power, but it's only 2.0, so it doesn't have the subwoofer. And they do sell other components as well, but I haven't tested any of those. However, for this Creative Labs 2.1 Pebble system, I actually like them. And so that's why I'm going to recommend them to you. So if you're interested, hit the link down in the description and check it out and research it yourself and look at the reviews on Amazon. And just keep in mind that this is what I use, and it suits me just fine for these purposes. For detailed listening, I'm not suggesting it by any means. I'm not suggesting it to replace studio monitors. And if you're looking for something that's extremely loud, it's probably not going to make you happy. But if you're in my situation where you need a low profile speaker that's going to be plenty loud for just casual listening and maybe listening on Netflix, then you might consider them. Thanks for tuning into this episode of SoundSpeeds. Be sure to tune in the future for more interesting products that I've been using for over a year and a half now without any issues, and sound advice. Have a question you'd like answered or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.